Watch the first 7 parts in the right order before continuing watching this video. Thank you. In this video, I want to talk about submission. It's written in the New Testament that wives ought to submit to their husbands. Look at the context here. Wives submit to your husband. So it's not intended for all females. Only those that are in a long-term relationship with a man in a marriage context. Okay? I'm not going into Roman marriage, common law marriage, and the legal frameworks around marriage in this video. I just want to say the following. Submission for women in general implies that they align themselves with Christ's design. Because Christ designed the female. Okay? So a woman ought to submit to the man who is Christ. It's only then that she can clearly see which man out there is safe or not. When a woman refuses to submit to the man that is the Most High, she will not be able to discern which males out there are safe to be around or not. And that's the issue with many women today. They look for a man to fulfill her. They look for a man to be her rock, to be her foundation, instead of submitting to the man. Haven't you noticed that when Satan entered the Garden of Eden, which was in present-day Ethiopia, for those that are not aware, I already made a video about that. Yes, there was an extension of the Garden of Eden. We have included areas that we today call the Arab Peninsula, but the Garden of Eden was in present-day Ethiopia. When Satan entered the Garden of Eden, he approached Eve. Because Satan knew that to get access to the man, he needed to use the female. So he tricks the female into thinking that she was missing something. How did he do that? By telling her, had God really said? First of all, if any being questions the Most High, he or she is out of line. Nevertheless, you can't blame Eve because she didn't know that much. She really didn't. So Satan used this ignorance against her. Satan blurred her perception. Now she saw the Heavenly Father as a competition. Now she saw the Heavenly Father as someone that looks down on her. And Satan gave her the solution for this quote-unquote problem, and that is to take on hold of Adam. That is the hoax Satan has been repeating throughout human history. When a woman is in submission to the man, and the man, the Most High, is the husband of mankind, then she'll have difficulty in all her human relationships. Now you have pagan women who have ease in their human relationships, but that doesn't mean that those relationships are good. You can have a woman that submits to an abusive husband and she's at ease because she manages to cope and transfer that contention elsewhere. And people may look at her and her husband and think, whoa, they are a perfect couple. Nothing could be further from the truth. Look, the Most High is the husband of the human population. Okay? And every woman must submit to the husband before they can submit to a husband. You get what I'm saying? So spiritually, she must be submitted to the husband so that she can submit properly to a husband. If she is in enmity or in distrust towards the husband who designed her, then as a man, you should watch out for her. Because that means that she is not willing to operate according to her natural design. And so that means that as a man, you'll have to compete who's the man in the relationship. And that's tiresome, that's dysfunctional, and that's what demons love. Androgyny is a satanic deception to keep the human population in a state of anxiety. Well, about submission also. Submission implies that someone has a dream or a plan or a vision, or well, someone's heading in a direction, and you align yourself with that direction. Aligning means that you adapt every way of thinking that benefits the goal, dream, or vision that the other one has, and that you acknowledge them as your superior in relationship to the goal that's to be reached. For example, when you join the police force, you align yourself with the vision of fighting crime to keep society safe. You adopt ways of thinking that support this vision. And because you support this vision, you give in to the requests of your superiors at the job while doing your work. Because you realize to cooperate together, someone needs to take the lead. So you give in to the leadership of the superiors at the police station. That is what submission is. Submission isn't blind obedience. Now listen to this. Blind obedience should only be given to Christ himself. All other beings that exist, you can only give conditional obedience. Unconditional obedience should only be reserved for the Most High. Period. So a woman can only submit unto her husband if her husband meets the right conditions. Okay? Because remember, she's a spirit being also. She has abilities also. She has a brain also. Sorry I raised my voice, but I need to do this. Because some people pretend as if submitting to your husband implies that you should throw your brains out of the window and be a zombie for the urges of your husband. That's not what I'm talking about. The reason many think like this, also in the church, is because the masculinity that the world has been conditioned into is not biblical. It's based on Apollo. It's Greek masculinity, which is patriarchy, which is a counterfeit masculinity. And Greek masculinity is really a psychopath. And a psychopath that rejects women, looks down on women, wants nothing to do with women except releasing his urges. And even his urges, he truly wants to relieve them on younger boys. But he needs females to procreate. That's Greek masculinity. Greek masculinity is a sodomite pattern that includes pedophilia and hatred against women. That's the masculinity the world has been conditioned into. So based on this false masculinity, people have the idea that submission for a woman implies flushing her common sense down the toilet and giving in completely to what the man wants without thinking. I'm sorry, but that's what parasites do. Women who operate naturally don't do that. I mean it. So what does it look like to submit unto your husband? It implies that first of all your husband is submitted unto the husband. The husband is the Most High himself. Your physical husband is a husband if you're a woman. So your husband is a husband and needs to be submitted to the husband. If your husband or long-term male partner, I'm talking to females now, if he doesn't submit to the husband, then ask yourself why you're still with him. But okay, apart from that, he must operate in his natural masculinity. If he doesn't know the Most High, then at least let him walk in his natural masculinity. If he ain't doing that, then why are you there? I would recommend you to leave if a man refuses to operate in his masculinity. I mean it, ladies. If a man refuses to walk in his masculinity, why are you there? You are trapped. That situation is a bad situation. It will only get worse and worse. I said before in this video that the masculinity the world has been conditioned into is false. Let me go further. It's demonic. Because this masculinity has another version that's Prince Charming. I've spoken about him before. Prince Charming is nothing but an archetype of Apollo, Antichrist. And as you can read in the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel, the son of perdition does not regard women. Every male regards women. Even men involved in homosexuality regard women. They have to. So a man that does not regard women is not human. And the son of perdition himself is not human. He's a Nephilim. The son of perdition hates females. So Prince Charming is based on the son of perdition. So any woman out there looking for Prince Charming is really looking for Satan's son, Apollo, as their husband. And he is the worst husband of all. He's the type of husband that will let you think that he is all into you. He will carry you on both hands as if you are his biggest treasure, while at the same time he, as a vampire, is training you and killing you. And a lot of women were involved in men like this. How come that they fell for it? It is because nobody told them what real masculinity is. And it's very difficult for a woman to know what real masculinity is if she doesn't even know her own nature. There is this YouTuber. Well, actually, most of his channels are gone now. He calls himself Hans Wormhead. I'm not promoting his channel here, but his channel became quite popular and influential on YouTube. Well, channels. I don't agree at all with that guy, because that guy claims to be a believer, claims to follow Christ, but he spreads a lot of, forgive my language, BS. But there's one thing he's right about. And he's a pagan, by the way, because the name Hans Wormhead, the name Wormhead itself is pagan, is disturbing. He never shows himself. That's also a red flag. But besides all of that, he said that most people today are covert trannies, covert transgenders, and that real men are rare. Now, some people think that when he said this, he meant this literally, that most males out there are really women who underwent transgender surgery. That's not what Hans Wormhead was aiming at. What he meant was that most men today, at least in the Western world, are not operating in their natural masculinity. And this leads to women taking masculine roles, which goes against their nature. So at least in the Western world, you don't have that many people operating according to the natural design. And that's a big problem. By the way, I don't recommend you to follow Hans Wormhead, because something's not right with that dude. Sometimes I'm even questioning whether he is a dude to begin with. But anyway, just know that that's how pagans do it. They tell you what's true, but in a mocking manner, to make it appear ridiculous. But they still mention to you what was going on. Look, as a woman, you should operate as a woman. Don't be a covert transgender. Well, that's it for now. Submit to Christ and be at peace.